Welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at the group of 5 quarterbacks that have a chance to make a potential run, whether that's at the college football playoff or a conference title, maybe both. And there are some exciting quarterbacks. The transfer portal has made it kind of difficult for group of 5 teams to thrive and keep their players, but some teams have been able to do that. We'll start with 2 of the bigger names. Maddux Madsen is under a ton of pressure this year. You lose Ashton Jeanty to the NFL draft, and now you have to find a replacement for him, but also maybe this offense relies on Madsen a little bit more. Threw for over 3,000 yards last year, 23 touchdowns. He's not going to be someone that runs the ball a ton, but he is someone that at least showed the ability to run, which I think opens things up for the offense. But again, without Ashton Jeanty, this is not going to be the same type of rushing attack for Boise State. It'll be more of a committee approach, and Madsen's going to have to make some bigger throws. He'll have to step up and deliver in certain situations because Ashton Jeanty is not going to be picking up those yards. And it's not that Boise State doesn't have talented running backs by any means. It's just that Madsen, just by default, is going to have to do more. And it'll be interesting to see if he's capable of making that happen. If he's able to make some of those throws. He does have Matt Lauer coming back, Latrell Caples. He does have some talent that everyone's excited about, and we'll see if they can deliver as well, but they're just not as experienced as Caples and Lauer. So you have good options available to him. It's just going to be a matter of who steps up and provides depth, and can Madsen handle that? Another guy that's looking to make an impact this year, Byrum for USF. There's a lot of people that are really excited about him, and fully healthy for 2025. You saw kind of the regression, if you will, of his production in 2024. This is a guy threw for over 3,200 yards in 2023 with 26 touchdowns and ran for over 800 yards and 11 more scores. That's someone who is extremely talented. Honestly, probably could have gone to another program, probably could have gotten Power 4 interest, and I'm curious to see how he is able to bounce back. He still has to compete with Bryce Archie, and I think that this is a guy who we should have big expectations for. And same thing with Madsen. Both these guys have big expectations. There are some people that believe USF could surprise the AAC, and there are people who believe Boise State can get back to the college football playoff. So these are 2 guys that are going to play massive roles for their teams, and these are 2 offenses that should be fun to watch in very different ways. There are plenty of quarterbacks that fit that description, though. Those 2 are going to be more of your passing, with rushing being a supplement. There are also, you can kind of flip it. There's 2 guys that we can talk about, Blake Horvath and Parker Navarro. Those are 2 very similar players in terms of how they play the game. Rushing is more of their primary strength, and then the secondary strength is going to be throwing the football. Now, Navy did surprise a lot of people with their triple option attack. They still were very run heavy, but Horvath threw for over 1,300 yards with 13 touchdowns, and the passing attack at times looked really good. So that's really exciting for Navy. They return plenty of talent, and multiple key starters are back on the offensive side of the ball, specifically at the skill positions, and Blake Horvath is back. So that Navy team expects to compete for an AAC title, and he will be a big reason why. But again, he's going to run, and that's going to be his primary strength, with the pass complementing the run. Navarro kind of did the same thing for Ohio. Now, he did throw for over 2,400 yards, but he only had 13 touchdowns. You'd kind of expect that number to be a little bit higher, but the 11 interceptions obviously limited some of that production. He wants to take care of the football a little bit more. He's going to be probably a bigger role this year in the offense, a bigger contributor, because of the turnover that you see at the skill positions. There's plenty of turnover. The coaching staff is turned over. So is this someone who is going to deliver on that? Can he take his game to another level? You saw the rushing numbers, over 1,000 yards, 6.5 yards per carry, and 18 touchdowns on the ground. So you see, their numbers are kind of similar. Their games are kind of similar in how they play the quarterback position. I'm very curious how a new offense will look for Parker Navarro and the guys around him, how they're able to step up and help him out a little bit more. We'll go on to two more guys that are kind of similar, Owen McCown and Walker Eget. Now, Owen McCown had a solid year, 3,400 yards, 25 touchdowns, similar to Parker Navarro. You want to see him reduce those 10 interceptions because this is a guy who has a ton of talent around him. The wide receivers in the tight end position are set. This offense could be one of the best in the conference, and part of that has to do with the quarterback. Obviously, you can have as many wide receivers as you want, but if you don't have a quarterback that can get them the ball, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. UTSA is in a great position because of Owen McCown. He is going to be really fun to watch. And I think that you're looking at a team that is ready to surprise people. They're going to compete with the Navies, the ECUs, the Memphis, the USFs. They are going to push for a conference title run, and that'll be really fun to watch. Now, Eget was in a quarterback battle last year. You see Emmett Brown hit the transfer portal and go to Coastal Carolina. So it's now Eget's job. And when you look at pretty good frame at 6'3", 223 pounds, he threw for over 2,500 yards. Again, reducing the interceptions for a lot of these group of 5 quarterbacks is really where they will find more success. If they can keep the ball in their hands and in their playmakers' hands, they're going to score more points. And for some of these guys that maybe are not going to graduate or go to the NFL, and they decide that they do want to transfer or come back for another year, that's going to bode them very well. It's going to show teams that they're capable of taking care of the football, show their own teams that they can do those things and help their teams improve. San Jose State is a kind of an underdog, if you will. Not a super big one, but in the Mountain West, that's a team that is hoping to make a run. We'll see who the top receiver is going to be. Nick Nash is off to the NFL. Trayshawn Hurry hit the transfer portal. So now it's up to Walker Eget to find some new talent around him and see what that is going to look like for that offense. And with Ken Niumatalolo running the show, it'll be really fun to watch. It'll be a really good offense. A team that I did want to discuss just purely based off of the quarterback situation because it's so unique. And then we'll dive into the final 4 quarterbacks that I want to talk to. James Madison is such an interesting team purely because of an injury. Now, if healthy, Alonza Barnett is one of the best group of 5 quarterbacks. I should say one of the best quarterbacks in college football. You look at what he did last year, almost 2,600 yards. He threw 26 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions, also ran for 442 yards and 7 more scores. Now, the injury at the end of the season has made his status for this year kind of uncertain, which is why you bring in Matthew Sluka. And there's a couple other options that they have, but from everything that I've been reading and seeing, people think it's Sluka's job right now until Barnett is healthy. Now, you want to see Barnett get healthy. I think James Madison has the potential to make a college football playoff run. And if they're able to do that, it has to be Barnett. If they want to have a chance, I think Barnett is just going to be that higher ceiling quarterback. Sluka did some good things at UNLV. We obviously know the controversy that comes with him, but in terms of playing quarterback, there were some good things he did. You just want to see the passing take a step, which is where Barnett thrives way more than Sluka. Sluka completed just 43.8% of his passes, only 6 touchdowns in his, in the time that he was the starter, but not a very accurate quarterback, and that's not going to bode well, especially when you have a rushing attack that everybody knows what George Pettaway can do. The quarterback position has to be able to relieve some of that pressure with their arm. Sticking in that conference for one of these guys, Colton Joseph is a name that I think is ready to break out in 2025. And he already had a pretty solid year, 1,600 yards passing, 11 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, 647 yards on the ground, and 11 more scores. Kind of similar to him at Memphis, Brendan Lewis comes in from Nevada and before that Colorado and takes over for Seth Hennigan. Now that's an offense that will look drastically different than it was in 2024, but Brendan Lewis has the ability to make things pretty exciting. And Joseph and Lewis are both kind of in that boat where they're ready to prove that they can do it. And Colton Joseph's on an Old Dominion team that consistently gets just ruined by the transfer portal. They did keep some key players, but a number of skill position players are going to be new to him, and he'll have to find some chemistry with them. So that's a challenge. But I do think that Old Dominion in the Sun Belt is kind of a sleeper team. Brendan Lewis is dealing with taking over for one of the best quarterbacks in Memphis history, but also a Memphis team that people kind of expect to take a step back. Now, I think the Memphis team expects to compete for an AAC championship, and bringing in Lewis is a big reason why. You look at what he did last year at Nevada, a team that was not very good. They were competitive and they were a tough team, but the record obviously indicates that they were not a great team. 2,200 yards, 16 touchdowns. He also ran for 775 yards and 8 more scores. He is a dual threat that makes that offense look a little bit different. And I think that you put some interesting talent around him and you feel like you're maybe in a better place with him versus maybe going to a younger player. Now, you do have AJ Hill coming in, so it might be a matter of time before they turn over that offense to him. But I feel like Brendan Lewis is a solid quarterback that can make Memphis really fun to watch. The 2 final ones we'll talk about. These 2 are flying under the radar, I think, for various different reasons. Tucker Gleason for Toledo. 2,800 yards last year, 24 touchdowns. Also kind of an underrated runner with 364 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's a big quarterback that can handle the hits. I think that the fact that Toledo did not win the MAC conference last year, maybe, I don't want to say ruined some of the excitement surrounding his season, but I think that definitely took away from some of his season. People were looking at, well, how does Toledo get back to the top of the conference? There's questions about the coaching and if they're able to get back to that point, but they do have the quarterback coming back that can make that happen. Jalen Raynor for Arkansas State, another team that is looking to potentially sneak up on people this year. He does have his top target in Corey Rucker coming back. Jacquez Cross comes back at running back as well. And Raynor is looking to get back on track himself. 2,700 yards last year and 16 touchdowns passing, but he did throw 10 interceptions. He also only averaged 2.8 yards per carry. So if he steps his game up and he's able to get back to the exciting level we saw 2 years ago, maybe this is a team that can make some noise. A lot of that hinges on his performance, but overall, Jalen Raynor is still a very fun player to watch and someone that is going to be intriguing and probably dictates a lot of Arkansas State's success. The group of 5 has plenty of more names that we could go into. These are just some of the top ones that I wanted to discuss today. I feel like these are names that aren't getting talked about enough. Most people are focusing on the big names, and that makes sense. But the group of 5 does have plenty of intriguing players, and there are more besides this list. There's plenty of guys to look at, and if they have successful seasons, their teams are going to have a really fun year as well. Some of these teams even will make a college football playoff run. It all starts with Madsen and Brown, but after that, there are still plenty of other players to keep an eye on in 2025.